Hello, welcome to episode 15 of Knitting on the Farm podcast. My name is Angela and this is Tuesday the 12th of January. Probably by the time you watch this and it's uploaded it'll be Wednesday, but it is a dreary day here today as always. We've had extreme frost for us and it has been lovely as long as you can stay indoors, and we've had some snow which was nice as well, but we're back to sort of the dreary days. But the one good thing is we can notice a little change in the evenings and it's staying brighter for that minute or two longer, which is really nice and very much appreciated. So as I say, my name's Angela. I am from County Down in Northern Ireland, and this is my little spot where I chat about my knitting and crafting life, and I also share some of the things that are going on the farm as well occasionally. I will tell you just where you can find me then. All the proper spellings and details are down below, but as always, I am mostly active on Instagram as Knitting on the Farm with the underscores. We have a Ravelry group across and on Ravelry, of course, and it's called Knitting on the Farm podcast group. And if you want to follow my projects, etc., which I try to keep up to date as best as possible, I am Knitting on the Farm on Ravelry as well. There's also, yes, I should say, a private email if you want to get in touch with me that way, and it's knittingonthefarm@gmail.com. So yes, I think that's all the introductions, apart from to say thank you again for so many more new subscribers. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the views and the comments that I'm getting, and who knows, maybe this year I will get 1,000 subscribers. Not for any particular reason, and that's not why I do the podcast, but wouldn't it be nice? Anyway, that's for later on in the year, isn't it? And that's not why I'm here, of course. So for today then, I want to announce the giveaway for Mr. Claus. That was the little bit of fun in our Vlogmas. You had to find him every day, and when he wasn't there, he maybe appeared twice the next day. So I've got quite a few entries and people seem to enjoy that. So I have picked the winner for that, and the winner has been emailed. I'm not just sure whether she wants me to mention her name or not, but if you haven't been notified by now, sorry, you haven't won, but I will get the parcel off in the post as soon as possible. So thank you everybody that entered, and I'll show you at the end just what the prize was. Okay, let's get into the goodies that has been happening. So I podcasted just at the end of the year, and I hope to podcast every 2 weeks. That's how I started out. Didn't always happen, but I hope to keep it going, and that way I can keep the podcasts a wee bit shorter and they're easier to upload as well. So today I want to chat about you as usual about the things that are on the needles, the things that I have finished, which is good. I want to chat a wee bit about my knitting plans that I have for this year. A couple of things have came in the post, and I also want to tell you about a make along that I am going to have and open up across on the Ravelry group. But as usual, we'll start with the things that are off the needles, and there are 2 or 3 which I'm really pleased with. So the first thing then that is off the needles is my honey strip hat, or honey stripe hat. Now I had this finished the last podcast and I didn't have the pom-pom on it, so I thought it just would quickly show it to you completely finished and blocked, and I will put photographs in. So this is the hat by Stephen West. It's called the honey stripe hat, as I've said, and that's the pom-pom on it. It blocked up beautifully soft for it to be so economical. I did cover the yarns and things that I used. I'll tell you briefly about what they are again. as I say, finished this before Christmas. The main yarn, which is this bluey tweed, is Knit Picks in their porpoise colorway, and it was a merino, alpaca and tweed mix, and it took 70 grams of the main color to knit it. The contrast color that I used then was from a local pound shop that I bought maybe 2-3 years ago. It was 100% acrylic, and I think it just said it was a grey color, but it took 24 grams of it. So as I did say before, I have enough left to knit in the opposite colors, because there is quite a big band on it, and I could get away with knitting that a bit shorter. So that's the Honey Stripe cowl by Stephen West. Next then was a couple of cowls. My little grandchildren asked for some cowls to keep them warm when they're outside, and these I knit. They were based on this pattern, which was called the Kika cowl by Maria Salikova, if that's the proper pronunciation. As you can see, there's a hat in there as well. This was a free pattern. So basically I worked the stitch count of it, and then I did my own take on it after that. So this one here, I started it and finished it in a day. It didn't take very long, and these are the yarns I used. Again, this is just a 100% acrylic that I had in stash, and this is what's left out of some yarn that I had. I'm not quite sure where it came from, but it's along the orange colours. This is what was asked for. So really simple, super quick, and it's nice and soft and squishy, so I know Chloe will enjoy wearing that. I have a couple of photographs I'll put in. So the other cowl that I knit then, the stitch count was based on the same Kika cowl pattern. I just cast on a few more stitches to make it slightly wider. This was knit in a regalia, a yarn that I had in stash from some socks, and the contrast colour also was from stash. This one is slightly deeper, so that is another cowl for my little grandson. So I think Jack will be pleased with that. I want to get them in the post. Then the other cowl that I have finished, I had started it before Christmas. I think I started it just about the 20th of December, and I only finished it there over New Year's weekend. It is the Round and Round cowl by Knitting, the Crazy Sock Lady, and it was designed to use minis, but I knitted in the one yarn. I chatted with you about how I felt the homespun house yarn. It felt a little hard when I was knitting it. It was the plump base, and it was called Jingleberry. It was an 80 superwash merino and a 20% nylon, and there was 3 70-meters or 470 yards in 100 grams. So it definitely is a little bit plumper. This is what I have left. I used almost 94 grams. I was trying to use up everything. This is the finished cowl. It's washed and blocked. It is quite a deep cowl, but it is lovely. If you can see See the pattern? It's more or less the same pattern as the Crazy Sock Ladies Heel Toe Dosey Do socks. But it's really nice and it's lovely on. I'll put some photographs in. As you can see, it's nice and deep and really squishy. See? So I am quite pleased with it. The yarn, it did soften with blocking. So it worked out better maybe than what I thought it was going to work out. But the colours they're definitely more a matte version of the colours than some other yarn I've used. But I think I'll put this away and keep it for Christmas next year. Then I have a pair of socks. It wouldn't be a podcast without a pair of socks, sure it wouldn't. So the socks that I have then are my Christmas Eve cast on socks. I think I showed you maybe one of them the last podcast. These are the socks. Oops. So you can see I have them finished. Okay, it's easier to hold one, isn't it? So the yarn then that I chose to knit these in was from Ellie of Craft House Magic, and her sock set came as 365 meters of the colourway All I Want for Christmas Is You, and I chose the 80% superwash and 20% nylon. It's a blue-faced Leicester. I love her BFL yarn, and it was a high twist, and this is what I have left. It's and then the mini that came with it was in the green. Then the third contrast I used is also Ellie's yarn, and it is her blue-faced Leicester high twist in her Thriller colourway, and I had it in stash. Really pleased with them. Isn't that yarn just beautiful? It just reminds me of lovely sprinkles on top of cupcakes. I did a 25 cuff, and then the stripes and everything else just was as per pattern. Only recommendation I've written down for myself is I knit on 2mm needles, and I think if I was doing them again I would do the colour work on 2.25. It's fine, it blocked really well, I've no complaints, but I think it's just something I would do. But aren't those hats super cute? And the Thriller just matched the skein perfectly. I didn't use a contrast just at the beginning of my cast on here, and that is the long tail cast on. I think the leg, the blue-faced Leicester, I need to keep reminding myself it knits up slightly looser in gauge than the other yarns, so I need to remember to take that into account. I did on the foot part okay, but on the leg I just need to bear that in mind. The other item then that I have is another pair of socks. I need forgiveness for these because they really only are a half finished object, but sure, it counts, doesn't it? They are called the Apple Muffin Socks by Gwen Willer, if that's the correct punctuation. This is a super pattern. I just love it. I had the pattern printed off, and the yarn came in. It's from my Life of Birds sock club. It was the pheasant colorway, and as soon as the yarn came in I just knew it was for the pattern. This is it was the November colorway from Sherry Iris. This is my first sock. Is this beautiful teal contrast, and then the reds with some brown going down through, and then the teal on the toe, and you can see the pattern. I did the heel flap and gusset, just my usual recipe, and again the 25 row cuff, knit one, purl one through the back loop, and I didn't use a contrast for a cast on. Now the pattern calls for using taking the pattern right down through the foot, which I didn't do. I'm knitting these for Andrew, and I asked him and he said he thought it might feel rough inside his shoe, so I just did the foot, well, plain knitting really, stocking stitch, which was fine. I've never been as pleased with a pattern matching the yarn, or the yarn fitting for a pattern. I am super thrilled with these, really am. I can't say enough about them. So I sort of divide the skeins into 250 grams, so that's what I have. That's what I have of the main colour for my second sock, and this is what I have for the contrast. So plenty left, and I am super pleased with that. I have decided I'm not actually doing Sherry Harris's sock club this year, and I'll chat about that in a wee minute. So that is my half finished object. Go back to my book here. That is all my finished items, and I think next then we will have a chat about some things that are on the needles. So let's go with that. So I said we would have a wee chat about what is on the needles at the minute. Well, basically I need to cast on the other apple muffin sock, and I have my fern and feather sweater that you've heard about many times is sitting on the needles, and it has not been looked at. To my shame, it really must be finished. But I did cast on this sweater. It is called the Metamorphic Sweater, and you can see why. It transitions from one colour, and then the colour work is here and on the arms, and then it moves down into the darker colour at the bottom. It's a paid for pattern. It's by Lisa K. Ross, and I chose some simple acrylic. It's just the simple Stylecraft special that we get here in the UK. It's 100% acrylic, and there's about 295 meters, which is 322 yards per 100 grams. So I chose these colors: the grey for the upper part of the sweater, the blue for the colour work transitioning into the navy. Stylecraft call these colours grey, basically. This is called Aster, and this is called Midnight. Now, I thought the contrast was just strange, to say the least. I just couldn't envisage this working, but when you see them together, I'm quite pleased. I have the sleeves split. You can see the neck edge here for the, it's called the Henley opening. It's nothing any different to it, it's just that's what she called it. Can you see that? Yeah, that's better. And then I have started the colour work. And I think it really took that brighter blue to work. I'm quite pleased with it. There are a few rows where you're doing the strong, just the plain aster right round, but it's really working well. I'll let you see the floats. I hope they're okay. I've been pulling them stretching them out as I go along, and I think they should be okay. Not probably the neatest, but I think it's working okay. On that very last row there, you can see I'm back into every other of the grey again, so that's good. It's a very well written pattern, very simple, and the colour works chart's easy to follow, so it is, and I'm really pleased with it. As I say, that Stylecraft, I have used it for years on baby knits and things, and it's super. You couldn't say anything wrong about it. It's washes and wears really well, and it's lovely, and it's lovely to knit with. It's very soft for it to be just an acrylic. I ordered the wool from Wool Warehouse, and I am hoping to have enough to knit our grandson one to match. I decided I would start with the larger one first, just to make sure I have enough yarn. So that is the only other thing then that I really have on the needles. My lovely friend Lindsay then from Stitch Create Love, excuse me, has been designing patterns, and she has her first one ready for test knitting of 2021. This just came through before I started the podcast, and it's her latest pattern. She's quite happy for us to test knitters to share it. So it's called Spring is in the Air, and isn't that just beautiful? She has knitted with 6 minis, I think, that she had, and as always her patterns are absolutely fantastic. Written instructions and charted instructions, and she's using her percentage method. I'm not sure whether it's Lindsay's percentage method, but she's using it in her patterns. I haven't got a chance to read through because it literally, I just printed it before I started to record. So she has instructions in short form and instructions in long written form, and then also in chart form. So that is Spring is in the Air. It's a Stitch Create Love pattern, and it's coming out at the end of January. So do watch out for that. She advertises her releases very well on Instagram. So that is the next thing that I will be casting on. I was looking through and taking stock of how last year went, and I have realised that the majority of my knitting has all been socks, and I have been squeezing my other knits in around sock knitting, and this year that has to change because I failed miserably in getting anything knit for myself. While that isn't a pressure, it was a bit disappointing because I had wanted to knit some things for myself, and the fact that I was fitting them around socks all the time, that just wasn't what I intended. So this year I want to change my knitting schedule slightly. The other thing I realised was when it comes to Vlogmas, I can't be finishing my gift knitting in December. I really need to be able to enjoy Vlogmas. I really need to have my gift knitting finished by November. So that was something that I took note of and I'm going to deal with. So I really want to scatter my gift knitting throughout the year from January to November. Not necessarily in Christmas colorways, so I'm not going to be, you know, torturing myself using Christmas colorways in July type thing, but I do need to scatter my gift knitting throughout the year. I really want to be able to keep December then. It's a long time away, but I want to keep it for filming Vlogmas, enjoying it, God willing, and doing my Advent knitting or just my December knitting where I can enjoy it and include it in my recording. So that I have taken note of as well. With regard to socks, I do want to knit 12 pairs. Ellie from Craft House Magic has started a sock club and she is running it from January to September. Obviously she does be really busy with advents and things in the latter part of the year, so I hope to, all being well, her January one hasn't just arrived yet, but I do hope to use her sock club and then 3 others, some of them from my Christmas stash if I have, and if I need to purchase anything then I'm going to do that for the October, November and December socks. So that is how I want to sprinkle my sock knitting throughout the year. So how I'm going to do it is this. I created myself a schedule in my knitting project book, and I set out with each month and I put in where I wanted to have things finished for. If there was a particular goal, for example the Metamorphic sweaters I want to have finished for June so that I can give them to the boys for my son's birthday. So I said that I wanted to have then, for example, the adult sweater that I'm knitting, I want to set the goal for finishing it in March, and when I finish it I want to start the smaller version of the sweater and I want to have them finished then for the very beginning of June. So I recorded that. I also recorded I want to have my fern and feather sweater finished in February. So that way I will know to set down the Metamorphic sweater and take some time knitting my fern and feather. I want to have the apple muffin socks finished, for example, in February. So that's going to be easy to do because I just have one sock to do. And I also want to cast on my first pair of January socks when my yarn comes. So I've sort of worked it that I'm going to be sort of have one sock almost finished when I'm starting the next pair. So things like that. I've given myself then a couple of grace months. For example, in April I just have written down the 1 pair of socks and I've used it as a catch-up month. I'm using October as a catch-up month. And then in order to have the 12 pairs, obviously I'm going to, the way I've worked it out, I need to do a couple of pair in the month, which is perfectly achievable. And where I'm doing the 2 pairs, I'm just like in June I've decided to do 2 pairs, but I'm just finishing off the other 2 sweaters and I know I need to have them finished for the beginning of June. So I think it'll work quite well. I've written it in just in pencil so that I can tweak it as I need to go, and all my Christmas gift knitting needs to be finished by November. And the one sweater that I want to knit for myself for Christmas is the deer sweater. If you were watching Kate from Hawthorne Cottage Craft, she had finished it for this year and I would really like to finish it for myself to wear in the Christmas period. So I don't have any gift knitting written down here apart from the socks, so I need to have a wee think about that. I haven't thought about my gift knitting, but I'm hoping this schedule will sort of keep me on track. In theory it sounds pretty good, it sounds achievable, and I'm hoping that it works. So that is sort of how I've organized my projects and things I've thought about for knitting the rest of this year. Seen all that the postie has brought, which was really just the yarn for the Metamorphic sweater, and I've chatted about the giveaway winner and the email has went out for it. So I am going to finish with 2 things then. One is a new make along that I am going to put across in the Ravelry group, and it's going to have the hashtag in Instagram as gifting through the year 2021. Basically what it's going to be is a finished object thread only, where you can put in your finished gifts that you're knitting throughout the year, and hopefully it'll help you, number one, think about what you need to knit as gifts, and number two, work on a schedule and get them finished. So I'm going to open that thread across in Ravelry, and we'll see how many people take part in it. And if you're on Instagram, use the hashtag then gifting through the year 2021, and I'll talk more about it on my next podcast, because I'm sort of just really sticking it in at the end. I am going to draw quarterly prizes for it, so I'll draw prizes at the end of March, June, September and December, and I haven't actually worked out what the prizes are going to be. Maybe with postage there might be something virtual, but we'll see. And as I say, it's just going to be a finished object thread, and hopefully it'll help you. As I say, I did my schedule and that was what gave me the idea for it. I think that's everything. I want to thank you very much for listening to me babble on, and for subscribing, and for the lovely comments that you say you enjoy the podcast. I enjoy putting them together, and I'm looking forward to what the rest of the year brings. So until the next time, please do keep safe and look after yourselves, enjoy your crafting time, and I will see you again soon. Bye!